We're back with breaking news in LA. California Governor Gavin Newsom just was out with his first reaction to today's chaos, clashes between protesters and law enforcement. Joining us now from LA is Jacob Soboroff, NBC News political and national correspondent who's been reporting on the protest in Los Angeles. Jacob, can you break down what was Governor Newsom's message right now?
Yeah, Elise, just to back up for a second, this is somewhat of a watershed moment here in California and across the country because, as you know, there are more undocumented people that live in Los Angeles County than any other county in the United States of America. President Trump has long promised, since I reported from the floor of the conventions, a mass deportation effort bigger than the size and scale of the historic 1954 one run by Dwight D. Eisenhower that deported 1 million Mexicans and some Mexican Americans after the Bracero program in the 1950s. And that is essentially the feeling on the ground here in Los Angeles over the course of the last 2 days. And with Tom Homan, the border czar for President Trump, out here in Los Angeles and saying that the National Guard would be deployed tonight, it has raised a lot of questions about the federal government's ability to do that, of course, to effectuate that, because the National Guard is under the control of the governor of the state of California. But the federal government evidently is insisting that under Title 10 of the United States Code, they are able to deputize these National Guard troops as on a federal military mission on the streets of Los Angeles tonight. Here's the statement from Governor Newsom, which we just received from his office. He says the federal government is moving to take over the California National Guard, and deploy 2,000 soldiers. That move is only purposefully inflammatory and will only escalate tensions. The governor goes on to say LA authorities are able to access law enforcement assistance at a moment's notice. We are in close coordination with the city and the county, and there is currently no unmet need. The Guard has been admirably serving LA throughout recovery, of course, referring to the wildfires that happened exactly 6 months ago today here in Los Angeles. This is the wrong mission and will erode public trust. And just to reiterate, I had spoken to the governor's office just moments before coming on the air. They had been in touch with the White House over the course of the last several days, coordinating, the governor's office says, on the response to these protests and obviously to coordinate on these federal immigration enforcement actions. I'm not saying to cooperate with them, but to have an understanding of what is happening on the ground here. The federal government says 118 people so far had been detained as of earlier today. Obviously, these actions, we've all been watching. With these actions, the numbers may go up. But the bottom line is, and I'd like to underscore, the governor of California is saying that the president of the United States is trying, against his wishes, to deploy his National Guard, the California National Guard, on a federal military mission on the streets of Los Angeles County tonight and Southern California in order to respond and participate in this large-scale immigration enforcement effort that is taking place throughout streets here in the Los Angeles area. And you're watching some of that on the left-hand side of your screen right now.
So, Jacob, to kind of drill down on that divide that is happening right now, it seems that you're going to have, just certainly based on the statements that have been made by both federal officials, including Tom Homan, who is calling for the deployment of the National Guard in L.A., as well as the statement that you just laid out for us with California Governor Gavin Newsom. How does this play out? Is there going to be a legal challenge as to whether or not the federal government can step in and make the claim that it is simply using the National Guard to enforce federal law? Because what's at stake here is the dispute as to whether or not, as Governor Newsom has laid out, the authorities, the local authorities, have the ability to continue to maintain law and order and security and safety for the residents of the Los Angeles area.
What the governor's office is telling me, Eamon, is that it's pretty clear in the Constitution the president has the authority to do this, whether the governor likes it or not. And you'll remember that at the very beginning of the administration, right on January 20th, one of the first executive orders, Executive Order 14167 on January 20th, was clarifying the military's role in protecting the territorial integrity of the United States. And in that early executive order and subsequent directives from the White House, including a military mission for sealing the southern border of the United States, a memoranda of April 11th, 2025, the White House made clear that they were considering and had at their disposal the option to use this Title 10 of the United States Military Code to deploy National Guard on a federal military mission into the interior of the United States. Whether or not other groups or the state of California ends up bringing this into court, obviously is an open question. It's a good one posed by you. We don't know the answer to that tonight. But of course, there are people out on the streets of Los Angeles and elsewhere watching from around the country, including some of your guests this evening. The question whether or not, as I've been saying, the size and the scale of this operation are commensurate with bringing in 44 people at worksite enforcement raids yesterday, going out to Home Depots throughout Los Angeles and reportedly going after day laborers standing on the side of the street looking to get work. You know, the question is here, who are these people that the federal government, that ICE, that HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, is going after in Los Angeles this weekend? If the answer is people with a long list of criminal records and rap sheets with severe crimes, it'd be consistent with the early messaging of this administration. If ultimately these are collateral arrests that are picking up workers, fathers, mothers, sons and daughters, you know, people going to school, people going to work, it's a different conversation. And whether or not that fits squarely into what the president has said, Stephen Miller has said, Tom Homan has said, is a mission to secure the territorial integrity of the United States, or if it's to go after lower level people who are here just with, without papers in essence, but have committed no other crimes. So, but the headline is tonight, the federal government has tried to deploy the National Guard here to the streets of Los Angeles. The governor of California is standing up in opposition to that, but it's pretty clear that he's not so sure there's so much that he can do. Amen.
Donald Trump actually recently posted on social media a statement about all of this, saying, quote, if Governor Gavin Newsom of California and Mayor Karen Bass of Los Angeles can't do their jobs, which everyone knows they can't, then the federal government will step in and solve the problem. Riots and looters the way it should be solved. Multiple exclamation points. So, Jacob, I want to ask you a little bit about who is actually keeping order on the ground, because we had our colleague Steve Patterson on earlier. He was wearing a gas mask, dealing with gas canisters being fired at him, and he said he could not tell who was actually firing that upon the crowds. Was it the feds? Was it ICE? Was it the FBI? Was it local riot police? Do we actually have information about what law enforcement cohorts are there right now?
What we've seen, Catherine, over the course of the past several days is sort of a potpourri of federal government officials, law enforcement officials, Homeland Security Investigations, which traditionally goes after human trafficking and money laundering and other types of transnational criminal activity, but they have been essentially deputized to go after undocumented immigrants on the street here. The FBI issued a statement yesterday saying that they were supporting these efforts as well. And then, of course, your traditional ICE agents. What I'm looking at on the screen right now, those black and whites in Paramount, California, I believe those would be Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputies, because that's not within the city limits of the city of Los Angeles. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department is responsible for the larger Los Angeles County area, but they, as well as the LAPD, are insistent that they are not participating in federal immigration enforcement efforts, only in the law enforcement support for the aftermath of those raids. Guys.